So I'm going to get started with the questions if that's all right.
Let's do it.
Cool. All right. So a few months ago, you guys announced your sophomore album, The Ends, which comes out on Friday, October 30th. And some promo posts on social media that you guys have been sharing include phrases like, if you're reviewing The Ends, stop playing with us. Go ahead and give us the 5 stars. And also Drake of this rock shit, Pharrell of this punk shit, Beyonce of this rock shit. So clearly you guys are psyched. We are as well. What do you think that this highly anticipated release will contribute to the Canadian music scene specifically?
In my humble and honest opinion, I do think it's going to be the premier, and unbiased opinion, I do want to say that as well, unbiased, completely biased. I think it's going to be the premier album, premier Canadian export of an album of this century. Like, if we're really evaluating music, music is a beautiful thing. Where like a lot of different frequencies really resonate with a lot of different types of people. But what I really want people to take in with The Ends is that we're doing something completely different over the course of a record. There is not a band that sounds like us over the course of a record. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And honestly, I just want people to enjoy it. I do believe it's a strong contribution to Canada. You're welcome. And and hopefully people like it. Hopefully people feel the same way.
Yeah, no, I think people will. I agree. In terms of, so far you guys have released 4 high energy singles for this record specifically. They're basically taking up most of the A side of it. How does the rest of the album sound? Is it basically similar?
It's a folk album on the other side. It's like we can just flip it on you. It's definitely a pop country album fusion. What I'd say is that we're pretty consistent, you know, like we don't like to be boxed in any particular genre in this rock and roll stuff. So we really kind of wanted to just even it out. So we've released a lot of the aggressive tracks, some of our more, let's call it accessible tracks. I don't know. And the album's pretty balanced. Like we go through all the different phases and all the waves between the different elements of punk. And I think people can be excited that there's still some bangers on the album, you know?
Love a banger. That's great. Good. That'll be good. I think that having a balanced album but a cohesive sound is obviously important. So I think that you guys are very well capable of that. And I'm looking forward to hearing how it sounds, you know, front to back all the way through. In terms of what you explore lyrically, you know, what was happening in your lives and in the world at the time of writing and recording, and what made it onto the page that was really important to you?
Oh, that's funny. What made it onto the page? What didn't make it onto the page?
I bet that's an even better story, but
right.
We'll get the B-sides maybe one day.
True. What was I going through? I was contemplating if I wanted to even pursue music anymore because the music industry is driving me crazy. I feel like how music is evaluated is very, very toxic for me. And I kind of had to grow up out of caring about what people think. So that's what got on the page. What got on the page is my true self and what I feel about the world. What does that mean? I feel like we're a band, we're a Black fronted band, and we don't get our comeuppance. And we don't get our comeuppance because people often question our existence in this space. So you're often going to hear a lot of lyrics that are going to be about like the lengths that we're willing to go to get what we feel we deserve. And it's very, very aggressive. Like, we're going to get in your face. I'm going to call people out respectfully. And if it needs to get there disrespectfully, we're going to be all about this. People can talk about us, but we're going to talk about you in your face, though. We'll be right there with it. So a lot of the album is really going to explore just that raw emotion of feeling disrespected and wanting to step up and speak up for not only for us, but for a bunch of other people that are going for the same things just like us, which is being questioned about our existence in the spaces and our representation in the space. And outside of that, just honestly, just true emotions about being able to, the waves of a musician. Like, do I trust myself? Do I trust what I'm writing down? Am I leading us in the right direction? Or am I leading us off a cliff? a lot of that's going through the album.
Yeah, that's not, I feel like with the kind of sound you guys have, it is like raw and in your face, but you know, especially the songs you guys already released, you use the word accessible. I don't know if it's accessible like
No, it's
common, but it is easy to, it's fun, right? Like it sounds fun, but you put some real messaging in there. And so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that come out in the music. Everything you're talking about, it's obviously really important. So that's really cool.
Thank you. I want to be the Beatles. I like clean sounding things. So like I just was like, how do I be clean and loud at the same time, you know? So that's kind of a lot of the inspiration. I really like the way I want you to be able to hear things because I have already issues enunciating. So hopefully you can hear the chords at least. You know?
Worst case, you Google the lyrics, right? But
exactly. That's it.
Yeah. In these days. Perfect. Okay, thank you. In terms of, you mentioned the Beatles just now and kind of getting a clean sound out of raw emotion. Do you have any other particular influences when making this record specifically? Like what came up sonically, lyrically, other artists?
I would say like even for the Beatles, like I just like them, I'm a fan, but I wouldn't say I'm necessarily really influenced by anybody musically, but I'm more influenced by like images and the ideas as to what they're trying to do. What does that mean? Artists like Kanye, Pharrell, Prince, like outside of being musical geniuses, brought something different to music, and they promoted it in a way that was very, very loud. So
and
that
smart
energy,
even, right?
yeah. So that energy is really more what I'm about. I'm more about like, all right, let's look at the rollout of what these guys have done and how they are able to garner success outside of their talent, because there's a bunch of wildly talented musicians. I'm from Toronto. There's 100 million talented musicians out here that are all equally deserving. All equally deserving. Like I have so many friends that I feel are the best bands in the world. But what's setting us apart? There's not much difference outside of the marketing of it. So I would say I'm more influenced on the marketing of some of my favorite musicians as opposed to their music. I don't really listen to their music like that. I listen to how they put it out. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's a really interesting way of going about it. And yeah, you guys do have a pretty unique sound and it's a great sound. So I guess getting influences from how you get it out there and kind of what you're doing with it, that makes sense. I could definitely see that. Do you have a favorite song on the album, or you and the guys in general where you're like, this is the one, or like this is the
they're all great. They're all the same. They're like, how am I going to choose which baby I love the most? But I will.
Yeah.
I do.
That's fair.
I would say that the first track on the album, which is Outside, which was our last video.
The most recent,
recent video. There's one coming out tomorrow, but the most recent video, that's my favorite because in the studio, it felt like everything changed when we recorded that album. Like I went back and I rewrote lyrics when we were recording that. Like everything felt different. There was a moment with us, the band, the producer, Dave Schiffman, where we all looked at each other and we all gave ourselves a stinky face. When you give them that face, that means something's happening. The angry face, like something's happening. And we all looked at each other and we were like, that's how to start a record. Nice. So I went back and I changed most of the lyrics and felt the vibe from there. So I say that song is the only one that really had that moment. And it was just like, okay, we found our sound.
Okay.
This is it.
So Outside was early in production and then you guys kind of adjusted a lot of the other tracks based on how good you felt about that one.
Yeah, I would say, well, the music was done. Like we didn't really change a lot of the music, but like lyrically in my approach, I changed things. Okay. I am notorious for writing up until the last day, which is why I don't remember any of the lyrics ever, because I literally wrote them in the studio. I wrote them in the studio. It's not
like you're like lamenting the perfect verse, right? Yeah, okay.
No, not at all. I'm writing in the studio before I do the verse, and then
how Cobain of you. Yeah.
Love him. That's it. Like, and that's it. Like, so it's really hard for me to remember verses because I don't know what they were sound like. But yeah, man, I was just trying to do something different. Like I think we really made, like at the end of the day, like we executed something different. I love all the tracks on the album because I do feel like there's something for everybody. and it's something that's uniquely ours as well. Anytime I talk about music to other people that love music, they're not able really to pinpoint a band that sounds like us. So I think that's exciting. I think people should be striving to be different and not stop striving to be the same as as they are right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you guys recently announced an album release show streaming from the Horseshoe on Friday night, which is really fun. How do you feel about hitting the stage with this new material for the first time? And also, like, can we expect any other performances supporting this album release in the near future, or especially like with proper touring being out indefinitely? Like, what do you guys see for this album?
I think it's really, really interesting because the touring musician really has to look at their business model and adjust it. You are not able to play shows with hundreds of people in front of you anymore, but you still need to play shows to, one, stay sharp, stay creative, and stay visible. So we're definitely gonna look to play in different and unique ways. And as soon as we can incorporate people, we're going to. Like this actual live stream, there was a way bigger idea behind it that unfortunately got quashed because we went back to level 2 in Toronto. Things got worse, right? And there was a unique idea that we were going to be able to execute that I think we are going to go ahead with when we get back to level 3. Because it's a very, very cool idea that not a lot of people have done. And so I can't give you too much.
But thank you for the tidbit even.
So this live stream, though, is going to be fun because we literally haven't played as a band since March. We took many years off of playing shows and in Toronto, especially specifically. And our first show back the day before Tom Hanks said he had COVID, and the day after, which was the day of the show, the NBA was canceled. So nobody came to the show. Because,
I think I had my eye on that show, and it was one of my many March, Aprils that I squashed myself. And I was like, right? Like,
it was going to be such a good summer that was lost. But like, we played some of the songs back then, and I'm happy that we're better now. So like, it's going to be really cool. I think people will enjoy it. We're going to play the album front to back. And if you don't enjoy it, I need you to pretend like you do. And that's pretty much it. But you'll enjoy it.
No, I will. I absolutely will. Yeah. You know, like I said, you guys basically gave us the whole A side already. And I think you just said there's going to be one more tomorrow. So I'm definitely looking forward to Friday night and Friday work day streaming the thing. That'll be really fun. So also, like, in addition about, you know, this time and coping with it, how has the pandemic affected your creative process over the past, let's say, 7 to 8 months? You know,
I've thrived. I've been better than ever.
Nice.
You know, the pandemic has been a horrible thing globally. The music business has been paused, and the music business has been paused, and that's like the small part of it. You know, we all know what else is going on. There's a death virus outside.
Totally.
I think it's really, really a good opportunity, though, for musicians to really, really evaluate what are you about and how are you going to make an impact that people can't take away from you. So that's granted me the opportunity to really start editing videos, become more visible on social media, where like last year, you know, you wouldn't hear a word from me like at all. I wasn't interested in social media. I was only interested in writing music, but this is the generation. Like, we have to try to make real connections, and we have to do it like this. We have to make real connections instead of just likes and all that bullshit. We have to really find our people. So I started shooting and editing videos. I did our last 3 videos, and I'm getting better every single one. And I'm really, really excited because I can use this skill to, one, advance us, but 2, to advance like the messages that I'm really, really about. I'm really, really about promoting Black, Indigenous, and people of color fronted bands, and having people see them. And now that I have a new tool, I'm going to use that tool to bring it to light in the platform where everybody's going to be absorbing it, whether that's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is. So like, I wouldn't have been able to do that without the pandemic.
Yeah, it's been really nice to hear. Everything you're talking about is really important for you personally as an artist, you know, making it work, and all of the messaging that, you know, promoting fellow people of color, all that is really important. But also just even in general, hearing any messages of artists or people in any field adapting and, you know, being able to do what they need to do with a terrible situation. So that's always really nice to hear. And, you know, on that note, I had a question about, you know, acknowledging that it is really important that you guys are a Black punk band and that that is not represented enough whatsoever. Are there any specific alternative artists, especially local, that are fronted by people of color or other marginalized groups that you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, well, locally, I would say Sea of Troubles and John Crow are amazing bands. They're both very young bands that are finding their sound, but I see their raw potential. One of the reasons I came back to music was actually seeing Jean Crow and what they were doing. I was like, yo, these guys, it feels like me 10 years ago. These guys are me 10 years ago. That's what they're doing. They're doing something new. They're doing something different, and they're bouncing in between genres, and they're not afraid. So definitely big shout out to Jean Crow. Big shout out to Sea of Troubles. But there's such a world of bands that people just really need to evaluate how they consume music. A lot of people consume music through playlisting, and unfortunately, that will find a lot of bands that are like me falling through the cracks of. Why? Because of resources. And it is what it is, right? So if you don't have access to the major resources to put you in the start or the beginning of whatever stage of music or the top of whatever playlist, then you're not going to hear about them. And it is what it is, right? So it's really, really important that people dig a little bit deeper to look for bands like Crown Lance, Hotel Mira, Troy Irons, Oxymorons with 2 R's, King Youngblood, Danny Denial. Like the list goes on. I would say people check our social media. We use our platform to not just promote ourselves. Like we're about people. We're about the people.
Yeah. You guys even have a playlist going, a different playlist, right? Yeah. So we'll link all those things. I believe we did a bit of a, you know, representation in the alternative scene article and kind of tried to link things like that. So that's great. Thank you. Sure. Is there anything else about this album or kind of what you guys are up to that you want to tell me about or tease at?
Wow, there's a lot about this album. This album, we started talking about bloggers. That's me on social media. If you anybody ever questions, it's usually me.
It's your voice. Take it up with me. Yeah.
It's usually me. And I would just say, like, yo, listen, all these bloggers, all these magazines, and every single one. I feel like the business is stacked up against independent artists and young and emerging artists because a lot of these people are stuck in the heyday of when they discovered music, and they're linked to those bands forever. So like just the other day, I read a review about this album, and they're like, "It's a great album," and like, just give us a 10. You know that nobody sounds like this. Yeah. You know in your heart that nobody sounds like this, and that we're doing something different. You know that it's great. Call it a 10. Stop waiting for your favorite band when you were growing up in the early 2000s or late 90s or whatever the F it was to give it to them because you're nostalgic. That's bullshit. It's time. Like, it's time to let us in, or we're going to kick down the door and we'll call you on it. But if you truly just don't think it's not good, then it's fine. It is what it is. I'll accept that. But I'll accept it in my own way. So I think the album is great. I think we're doing something really, truly unique. And I challenge people to break the boxes in which they are currently living in and do something bigger and look for something in it. If you're not messing with us, check the different alt lists. You'll find somebody that you'll be messing with. And I want you to ride for those people, follow them, support them, and let people know, let your friends know, so we can make some real change in the music industry.
For sure. That's a great bit to end on. Thank you so much for talking to me this afternoon.